So you're doing a talk at the whiskey show this afternoon. What's that about?
Two of them, yeah.
Two.
Yeah, one is tasting of Brora and Clynelish, which I already did 15 years ago. So it's a reloading sequel, or I don't know, with other whiskies. And then we always used to do what they call a 3 blind men session. So that's with that used to be with Charlie and Dave and myself. And we were trying blind and being silly in front of a crowd, because trying to guess the whiskeys, of course, we failed a lot. So you always end up kind of, you don't need a lot of self-esteem to do that. And but we did. And now it's Sukhinder, Dave and me, I think, this time.
And you're blind tasting.
Yeah.
You don't have any idea what it is?
No.
Not even, so, but malt whiskey? Could be?
In theory.
Right, okay. But could be blended, could be, that would be harder. That's not
I can't remember
hard,
if we ever had some blended. Irish for sure. Not only Scotch, that's for sure. Yeah. And yeah, it's a funny thing.
Yeah, I think
the audience is trying to guess as well, of course.
Yeah. Oh, they get samples too.
Yeah.
Huh. I do think it's funny. I think a lot of people sort of pride themselves on like sniffing. I was going to say, oh, is it Linkwood? No, Maniacs. And you're like, really? You're like, I mean, there's certain distilleries where I think like something like the Freud, for example, where there's signs,
Yeah.
and probably a few others as well.
Yeah.
But to be kind of assuming that you can get that distillery character with maturation layered over the top and just, idiosyncrasies of the particular whiskey that you're having that may deviate it from that distillery style.
Yeah.
There's some hubris there, I think,
Yeah, especially if someone is organizing it for you, know, because you could have tricks, as you said, the Lafroig, but the Lafroig that's not very peaty, or Lafroig that's not very medicinal, and then you fail anyway.
Yeah.
But if you buy a bottle of 10 years old in a shop, you recognize it.
Yeah.
But many are different, especially the independents. So you're never quite sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. It's a tricky game.
Yeah, well, of course, the one time you're right, you're like, yes, I know whiskey. But no, there's going to be another 99 times when you're wrong,
Yeah.
So the Clynelish and Brora tasting, so that's just comparing the two. So we're talking through the history of it, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be improvised anyway. So yeah, I told Dawn, shall I make a PowerPoint? She said, no, PowerPoint is very last century. Don't do that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So we'll see. We'll let some of the whiskey I've never tried them before. Some of them I did. So we'll see. We'll just try them. We know the periods. We know the difference. At Clynelish, you've clear differences between 83 and 93 and 2003.
Remind me of the history, because Brora was originally called Clynelish, correct?
Exact.
Yeah, but was it always making peated whiskey?
No. I mean, all whiskeys were kind of peated at some point. Right, because they were using sometimes just peat to heat to malt, and especially during the war, for example, where oil was on high demand or stuff like that. That's why the whiskies from around the Second World War, especially towards the end, like Macallan, who was quite peaty, quite smoky. We'll see. No, I've tried quite a few Clynishes from the era before Brora, and they were very mineral, kind of smoky, but it's more towards coal or not too much peat. Although they were a bit like Highland Park, like all these whiskies were a bit peaty. And no, they got peaty when they reopened the distillery. Which was because there was no water on Isla. And for example, Johnnie Walker was rising. And Johnnie Walker was kind of smoky. So they needed smoky whiskey to make Johnnie Walker. The sales of Johnnie Walker was really getting higher and higher. And no water on Isla, which is quite bizarre, but it happened. And so all three distilleries that were having didn't work anymore. So Caolila, Lagavulin, and Portland closed. So they had to find a way of making peaty whiskey elsewhere. And so they they made some tries at different distilleries that they were having, and the one that they made at Brora, I mean, old Clynelish were deemed the closest to Lagavulin, which was the benchmark.
In terms of the stills and the style of whiskey.
Yeah, they were really trying the new makes, comparing the new make of Lagavulin with the new make of Brora. I mean, at that time, they said, yeah, we have it. And that's why they started to produce with malt that was made at Glenord Maltings. I think it still is there, by the way, since they reopened, as you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. If you pick up an old enough bottle of Clynelish, then actually it's not Clynelish Distillery. It's Brora Distillery.
It's complicated because the stills were the same, right?
Yeah. Oh, they were. So they moved.
But they only two of them. But they copied the stills.
They copied them,
when they built the new one.
Okay. So it really was a kind of copy of a distillery.
Yeah, but there are 6 stills, 3 pairs,
Right.
and the new one.
Okay.
And the new one is what we call a shoebox distillery. It's not very pretty, whereas the old one is very pretty, Victorian. And but yeah, they tried to keep the waxiness that you can find in the old Clynelish as well.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they are difficult to grasp because they changed a lot of things in the 60s. Like many distilleries, they went from direct heating to steam. They stopped their own maltings. So even if you try old Clynelish, they are not consistent. If you have some from, for example, the official 12 years old that they were selling already in the 60s. So that's 50s distillate or even earlier. So direct fired and floor maltings. Whereas 65, 66 is already steam. And so that's where the independent bottlings you find the most are 65, 66. Only 2 years. And then they closed.
Are you tasting some from that era today?
No. I've just checked. No, but there is stupendous Brora 72, which I think is the best year for Brora. Well, it was really very pity. They were really producing for the blends at that time.
And that's what makes it a good year in your eyes, or was it something else?
Yeah. They were really trying. No, it's hard to say because many whiskies were brilliant in Scotland in 72. I don't know why. Nobody really.
The barley, perhaps. If it's all in the same year, that would seem to be the.
Yeah, but in most of the cases, barley from 71 then, because you've got dormancy.
Sure, yeah.
So they, I don't know, in different styles. Clynelish is brilliant too. The new Clynelish, the current Clynelish in 72 is brilliant too. And Brora, was absolutely. But as soon as they restarted Caerliela, because Caerliela was being rebuilt at that time, that's very geeky. I'm sorry, but when the new Caerliela was working, because they had almost destroyed the old one, and they tripled the capacity, so they had enough. And so they decreased the peat level at Brora already, around 75, right?
Okay.
Even before 75. And so it's quite funny to follow the Brora, because they were working on specifications then for the blenders. So sometimes you find a very peaty one, even in the later period.
Yeah.
Like the very last month, so 83. And sometimes it's really light. And sometimes you can't make a difference between a Brora and the Clynelish, because they're basically the same whiskey. I suppose they were using the same mash.
Yeah. Wow.
It's very complicated.
That is such a complicated relationship between the two distilleries and the name Clynelish, and then, as you say, the demand from the blenders as to what recipe they want, basically.
Yeah, they were producing for the blenders.
Yeah.
And but the old one as well. Although the old one was selling direct as well, a lot. It was one of the first one and the most well reputed in the early 20th century already. They were selling by the gallon or by the barrel or bottles direct to consumers, or to hotels or restaurants, and yeah.
Well, we just got deep into the geeky weeds of whiskey history there, straight off the bat. I want to talk about fun, though. You've said before that whiskey is just a funny thing.
To me.
You've said it.
Yeah.
To you, yeah. And that sometimes people take it too seriously. So let's start there. Why do you think whiskey risks taking itself too seriously?
Well, first, of course, you understand that it's very serious for people who make it or sell it, or communities around the distilleries, anybody. It's their work, so that's very serious, of course. But the simple drinker, such as myself and quite a few others, you tend to be very geeky, of course, when you're deep into any products. Same with mechanics or watches or whatever, bird watching or whatever. And I think we should not, because it's only, after all, it's only 850 grams of barley or something, a bottle. It's nothing really serious.
On a bit of a tree.
Yeah, maybe 1 kilogram for a cask strength, of barley, a little more after 10 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and yeah, it commercially, when the tide started to rise, really after of course, the end of the whiskey law, the period. So after the year 2000, I would say, a little later, really everybody was rising everything, including the pretentiousness and pedestal and glitz and glam and whatever, and trying to milk the market, which is normal. Any company does that or tries to do that, and it got really very serious. Yeah, very serious, and the prices got insane, presentation insane, and some brands became really arrogant. Yeah, I've seen one of the questions you sent me. Indeed. And now, I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's the end of the previous cycle. It's not completely finished because you still see city prices.
Yeah.
Which is a bit bizarre. And I know that some prefer to stock up and not lower the prices because they believe it will rise again soon, some of them. And so why take again 10 years to rise the prices? But we'll see what's going to happen. It's tricky because it's the same tendency in wine, for example, or any spirits, almost any spirits.
It's harder with whiskey though, isn't it? Because it's a long game, right? So you're always forecasting for 5-10 years in the future.
Yeah. They're cutting that. They're really cutting the time to market in a way. I mean, they are shifting the added value from the beginning to the end of the production cycle. Meaning, at the beginning, they made a lot of effort in the whiskey making, stills and everything, yeast, etc. And they were filling barrels. They didn't even know what they were. Usually they would say American, European. That was the only differentiation they were doing. And they were filling so the cask and praying, as they used to say. We pray and we wait 15 years. So everything happened at the beginning. Now they fill knackered wood, dead wood. Not all of them, of course, but try to get the age, because you need the age. The period of no age statement is, I think, almost over now. They still have some, but it's hard to sell a whiskey very expensive when we don't have an age statement. So they get it quite cheaply, and then they adjust the flavors using finishing. Extra. Yeah, double maturation, or all that. So it's quite a difference. It's very different from what they used to do in previously.
Yeah, and you think that's negatively impacted quality?
At some point, it did, but I think they do it better now. They are getting better. Progress.
You think in general the whiskey category is in better shape in terms of the quality of product available than it was, say, 20, 30, 40 years ago?
The average is better.
The average is better.
But I think since there is less magic or less chance or whatever, you don't have marvelous whiskies anymore, I think. Really stunners. Like that Brora 72 I was mentioning earlier. These ones are really probably the result of chance. And that these ones might have disappeared. But on the other hand, the average quality is better. You don't have any duds anymore.
Yeah.
In the old days, you used to.
Yeah.
you used to have, I won't mention any name, but some distilleries were really churning out poor whiskies. Yeah, and well, you can't blame them. The distillers, the independent bottlers, for example, who were trying to have a bit of everything. All the distilleries, since so few of them were sold directly by the producers, you had maybe 10 of them. So if you wanted, for example, Glenallachie, you had to go to the Indies, and the Indies were trying to get some Glenallachie. So yeah, so you have, it was sometimes a bit average. It was coming from the blender stock. Very few of them were filling directly. Gordon Macphail used to do that, of course. They're known for that. And others now, but it's another system.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with friends the other day about indie bottlers buying new make and basically tankering new make away, whether in the cask or out, but this is whiskey that's not been aged.
Yep.
And then maturing it according to their recipe in their location and slapping the name of the distillery on the front.
Yeah.
And what that represents at that point. And it ended up being quite a sort of existential, philosophical conversation about what the distillery means as a name. Because a lot of producers will produce their whiskey, they'll distill their new make, they'll put it in barrels and they'll send it off to Glasgow or whatever to sit in warehouses. Most whiskey is not matured at a distillery. Yeah, or it gets, or the whiskey matured at that distillery is actually from another distillery, and they sort of, hedge their bets and don't put all the eggs in one basket. So sort of causing to question, like, is that whiskey fully made at that distillery or not? Or is it just the mashing, fermentation, distillation? But then there's this added bit here with Indies now taking control of the maturation phase of production. And so even the hand of the producer that would have manipulated maturation up until the point that whiskey was sold, whether to an indie or as bottled as a distillery release, has been taken away. And so should we really be calling it ex-distillery when actually the indie has had such a hand in shaping that liquid?
It's a good question, obviously. But I don't, as you said yourself, I don't think there's a difference between what, for example, Gordon Macphail are doing. They are the kings of filling, buying new fillings, and what any big company does, because as you said, they don't mature on location, or very few. I don't think they control it really. I mean, they don't taste the whiskeys, except they have millions of casks. So
yeah,
there's no someone with a pipette every morning, or Valinch or whatever. So I would say the indies have more access to the barrels than the officials.
Yeah,
it's easy for them. If you've got 20 or 50 or 100 casks of this or that distillery, you can monitor the maturation. If you've got millions,
yeah,
maybe AI now, but not human. So I understand what you mean, but a distillery on Isla buys the malt from a malting plant. Brews themselves, of course. They make the beer. I mean, they mash, they do the wash, and they distill, and then they fill tankers, and it goes away. So what happens at the distillery happens within maybe 10 days, 8 days, 10 days. All the rest is elsewhere. And the barley comes from France or Canada or whatever, but that's always been like that. Even if you see, for example, distillery books from the 19th century, you'll see barley from, Danuban barley, Canada, Australia, all the Commonwealth, Pakistan, for example. And sometimes a bit of own farm when they were still growing their own, but that was a fraction of the production. So it was already a very international product, very. The casks come from rarest or America, and now from France and Italy and elsewhere. The yeast from England, sometimes. So the presentation boxes from China.
The oak from America.
The glass from I don't know where. The corks from Portugal.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So it's an international product.
Yeah. When you put it like that, but I guess we have to attribute some location or person to its production, and the distillery seems like the most obvious place to, rather than Portugal with its corks.
Obviously.
Yeah.
You say that because when the cork is not broken.
Yeah. That was kind of the conclusion we came to as well, without putting it as eloquently as you did, and factoring all of the different international elements to it. We actually came to the absurd conclusion that, of course, Scotland doesn't actually have whiskey distilleries. It has new make distilleries, and the whiskey is made in the cask, wherever that may sit, you know.
And even maturation. No, you have to mature in Scotland.
Yes.
But before, I think, 2009, something, you could mature as well.
Do you think the seriousness in whiskey is something that's driven by brands or consumers?
Some consumers, the geeks, yeah, because they're deep into it. So they do it. I mean, other people who are not geek find the geeks, they say they are too serious. But that's few people, right? The industry has to be serious. It's their job. The rest, of course, if you buy whiskey very expensive in a bar and for a lot of money, you have to take it seriously in a way, because you pay the high price. So it's serious to shell out £50 for a wee dram.
Indeed, yeah.
That's very serious. But then...
but that's part of it, I think, isn't it? A lot of the time, when the money is being spent, it actually engenders a sense of seriousness in what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to comfort yourself in the act that you just... the fact that you just bought something very expensive. It's like
yes.
Whenever you buy something expensive, you've got this long phase of...
you have to invest yourself in that thing because you've just invested in it.
Yeah. You had to convince yourself that you did right.
Didn't do a stupid
And you'll
thing.
find the whiskey very good.
Yeah. Well, there's all those sort of human behavior studies, isn't there? Like on expensive bottles of wine versus cheap, but it's the same liquid kind of thing. Once you have a value associated with it, then it improves the experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about whiskey fun. How it's a fascinating website. You've done 25,000 whiskey tasting notes on there, maybe more.
Altogether, yeah, not only whiskey, but yeah,
Other stuff as well.
that with a few rums and cognacs, and yeah.
How do you kind of balance the fun element with the seriousness of that, of tasting these products that have been painstakingly made, the respect that's due, the process that's involved in actually assessing them, but also keeping it lighthearted?
Yeah, it's not my job. That's most important. So it's really a hobby for me, which many people don't believe, but it's true. So it's really a hobby.
Seems like a full-time job from the outside.
I know, but it's not at all. And so I have to keep it fun. Otherwise, I drop it. If it gets too serious or too, there's no fun in it. And I'm in it for the fun. That's for sure. But then, as you said, I have procedures in a way. Yeah, I really try to make it to do it the easiest way possible for me. Easiest possible way, which implies, for example, always trying whiskies from the same distillery. So doing series of 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 12 whiskies from the same either style, but that's not very often, or same distillery. That's much. It's more difficult to organize, of course, because you have to source the whiskies or gather them in a way. But then when you do it, it's much easier because they comparison is so easy.
You can pick them apart that little bit easier.
Whiskey B is lemony.
Yeah.
It's lemony because whiskey A is not lemony.
Yes. Whereas if it was a different distillery, it's like, well, that's because they're different distilleries. It's not lemony, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. While, indeed, when you try from the same distillery, all the nuances come out very easily. Unless you're really impaired, you get them. It's very easy. Just jump to your nostrils, you know. So heavier, lighter, smokier, less smoky, lemony, as we said, or waxy this afternoon maybe, with the Clynelish or all that. When you compare, it's easier. So that's a large part of the fact that it's quite easy to do. And then there's just a little discipline, meaning not trying something after a pepperoni pizza, or Indian food. Waiting a bit. I like the end of the afternoon, for example, before dinner, or the weekends, using the same water, same glasses. Nothing that disturbs you. No music. I hated that I can't listen to music while trying music because I love music.
What does it do?
But then it captures the attention. Yeah, of course. If I do, I did it a few times, of course, but every time I needed like 30 minutes to do a whiskey, whereas without music, it's 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, you see. Yeah, of course. Oh, the solo. Come on. If you've got an average whiskey and Charlie Parker on the stereo, I can tell you that Charlie wins.
Well, I mean, I've had Professor Charles Spence on, who deals in the sort of psychology of flavor, and he would tell you that depending on the music, it will shape your experience of the flavor as well.
Absolutely.
If it's like tinkly kind of piano, you'll start to find that you're getting kind of maybe slight sort of fruity, fresh, spring-like flavors, floral. And if it's deep bass, then maybe the smoke's coming through a little bit more. Yeah. So yeah, you got to be careful about that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even the places. That's why I do it always at my office. Let's say I've got two different places, but not more. And I will never do it at festivals or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I always have small bottles with me, and if there's a whiskey that I would like to try really seriously,
just put a little bottle.
I fill a little bottle and do it at home.
I did this. I wrote a whiskey book, 2 whiskey books actually. The first one was about 10 years ago, and I went to the same whiskey show that you're going to this afternoon, Whiskey Exchange show, and I had like 150ml plastic bottles with me, and it was really interesting actually. I was going around and saying to people, look, I'm doing this book and I really want to write some tasting notes for this whiskey. Can you put it in the bottle? And they're a bit like, oh, I don't know if I was like, well, look, I can taste it here if you want, but I can't do a proper tasting here. I can't dilute it properly. No. It's noisy.
Yeah.
Plus, I've probably tasted 10 other whiskeys. Yeah. So,
and a very peaty one before.
Yeah, exactly. So all these people that you're sampling to here, they're not really getting a proper assessment of your whiskey. Yeah. They're here for the chat and to try it, and it's nice to share and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But you can't really assess a whiskey at a whiskey show.
No, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do. And I know that if everybody starts, that's what they say, if everybody starts to come with small bottles to
that would be a problem.
That would be a problem, yeah. So you have to have a good excuse to do that. But in the end of the day, they know you. I mean, they know me. They know that I'm not going to resell or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I don't know what. And, And they send some to me, of course, as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I bet you get sent quite a lot of whiskey and spirits. Is that a problem? Like, is there enough storage space for all of this stuff?
Well, I've got permanently around 3,000 to 4,000 of them that I haven't tasted yet, and that's why I can.
3,000 to 4,000 you haven't tasted yet.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's the rolling library. Some of them I'll never try them for sure. So I try to balance. To taste a bit of everything. I'm really doing every effort to try Glenspey or Manormore or Clynelish or these smaller names. I like to try this, even if it's not very successful. I know that I've got fewer people going to the website when I try Glenspey, for example. Nothing against Glenspey, of course, I love them. Than Macallan or Springbank or whatever.
Sure.
So it's kind of a suicide for the traffic to write this thing, but I don't quite care. So,
You are cognizant of the website traffic then in what you're doing. That in some way shapes your tasting decisions.
I don't follow the statistics.
No.
I look every once in a while.
Yeah. And you
Not
can see
very
the
often.
patterns and the
Yeah.
and the views of what
Yeah.
people are looking at. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just again on tasting process, is there anything interesting about the way you do that? You said you line up comparison distilleries.
Yeah.
You're diluting with water, you're nosing, but how long does this take? You might have seen the interview I did with Dave Broom recently, and he emphasized that it takes him 2 to 3 hours, I think, to taste 3 whiskies these days. And he has this incredible routine and ritual where he's moving it around and spitting it out and then tasting it again and moving to a different part of it. So is there anything that you're doing that would be abnormal to...
I'm faster than Dave, I think, but I suppose he does that when he tries different whiskies.
Yes.
As I said before, if you do that with the same distillery, it's much faster. Because basically, if you go quite far, let's say it's a session with only Lafroig from 10 to 15 years old, right? So they're quite close. And why not only bourbon or only sherry? Then it's getting narrower and narrower and narrower. And basically, when you try 5 of them, it's like if you tried only one.
Yeah.
Because they are so close. So you try the first one. So indeed, you can spend a lot of time on the first one, sorry. And then the second one, you say, yeah, this one is a bit harder. This one is a bit lighter, and then it goes very easily. So you can have a lot until, since I always swallow a few drops, not much. I try to control, of course. I wouldn't be here. But you can't have too many because you get saturated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like spot the difference then, isn't it? It's like the picture is basically the same. You're just looking for what stands out between each expression. Yeah.
And it's even easier since indeed they stand out. There are differences. If there's only one, you get it immediately.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And also, I guess, given your experience, you are pretty familiar with the sort of baseline distillery style that's consistent through these. So when you line up 5 Lafroigs, for example, you know roughly what you're going to expect. It's just the unexpected that needs to be noted down.
Absolutely. Although it's changing now with the finishings, etc.
Sure, there's more weirder flavors coming in.
Yeah. If you've got Pomerol against Australian Shiraz against, it's not the Lafroig anymore. So in a way, so you're trying blends or premixes or whatever you call it. And the differences are related to the wood, so you have to be careful. And so the way you build the lineups changes. You could almost do young Space Harrier, for example, 7 young Space Harriers, all finished in red wine.
Yeah.
But then you don't need to have the red wine is more important than the distillery if you're in Speyside, right? Yeah. Because the whiskey is quite similar. And actually, you don't recognize the distillery. If you're really honest, you don't recognize the distillery anymore. You get the wine, you get the French oak or European oak, you get the toasting, you get the wine, and if it's STR, it's even. I mean, the impact of the wood is so huge. So yeah, that's a change.
Isn't that interesting? Well, that's very interesting that, like you say. So actually, it's not necessarily a comparative distillery tasting. It's just finding the common denominator.
Yeah,
and that might be cask finish.
More and more.
Yeah, more and more.
In the past, it was always the distillery.
Yeah, but the other interesting thing there is that with cask finishing, we can get into maybe like why that is being done and whether it's consumer demand or it's producer differentiation. But if it on the side of producer differentiation, trying to create an innovative product, it's interesting that actually it just homogenizes and then everyone's product starts to taste the same because of a red wine cask.
Because they have the same wood.
Yeah. They're buying the same casks, basically. They're finishing for the same amount of time, and it's so powerful and its impact on flavor that X distillery tastes the same as Y distillery tastes the same as Z. So the innovation is actually counterproductive because rather than making a product stand out, I mean, maybe it stands out on the shelf, of course, but as a liquid, it blends in.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if it's gonna last. It's all related to costs, to the fact that bourbon is expensive now, the barrels.
More expensive than a wine cask, but then I guess you're not putting it in there for long.
Some wine casks have no value.
Really?
No. Not no, but very little. Because actually they are not reused in the wine industry. No one in the wine industry.
Sure, so they can only sell it to us.
For example, Chateau Margaux will sell the cask to, because they use them only once, right? So they would sell them to a small chateau. But in Bordeaux, of course, nobody in France, in another region, use a cask of Bordeaux. Never. Whereas in whiskey, you can use them. So, but they dismount them and rebuild them and they make hogsheads, for example. They don't use Chateau Barriques very often. Some do, but they're quite rare. But now, if you look at the whiskeys, they're all hogsheads, Pomerol hogshead. There's no hogshead in Pomerol, I can tell you, or whatever. But
Why does the whiskey industry turn them into hogsheads?
It's a good question. I think they want to char them. They want to burn them a little more. Otherwise, when they use chateau cask, as you said, in the past, the chateaus were shipping in transport casks. So even when you see in old books, Bordeaux cask, indeed, some people say today, we've always done that. When you complain about the fact that they use too much red wine, we always done that. Yeah, sure, but when they were exporting Chateau Margaux, usually they were exporting them in transport barracks, like sherry.
Same as sherry and port, yeah.
And so it's quite different than the chateau.
Because the transport cask would have basically been pretty inactive old wood that's just held the wine in transport rather than sat there in the chateau
and much thinner.
Yeah.
And that's why you would find, for example, still some chestnut wood. Chestnut wood used for transport.
Yeah.
Not maturation. So yeah, and I suppose they don't want too much strawberry and raspberry or cassis or whatever. That's why they are building hogsheads and burning them.
Yeah.
And then rejuvenating them, and they have tools to do that. I think the processes are calibrated on hogsheads. They won't change all the time their system because they have different shapes or sizes.
So you're saying you wonder whether it's going to last, the cask finishing thing, or not? But if it's cheap barrels and it's putting flavor and color into that whiskey, it seems like too much of a temptation to say, no, you know what, we'll stick with bourbon.
In bourbon now, they can rinse the barrel and extract what's in the staves, which wasn't the case before. So that changes completely. Even the new bourbon barrels that arrive now, they're not the same as they used to be because of that. They contain no bourbon anymore, and the cask is not dead, but it's less active, that's for sure, because of this new process. So they have to react, that's for sure as well. I'm happy with the dead cask. I like it.
Yeah.
As long as there's age. Of course, dead cask and
short age.
No aged.
That's so good.
What we call new make, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that for me is one of the hallmarks of a good long-aged whiskey is actually the oxidative effects that go on with time.
Absolutely.
And not this just sort of impregnation of cask character until it tastes like a stave,
No.
Yeah.
No,
and so inactive casks are good in that sense, as long as you age it for a long time.
Basically, many have replaced time with wood.
Yeah.
So in the equation.
Yeah, that's it. And then marketed it as better quality wood. And it's like, well, the wood is active, and so it's doing a lot of work, but do we want that in a sort of 5 to 10 years period rather than the effect of that nice, long, slow maturation. Yeah.
But to be honest, they make it better for sure. They really make it better.
Yeah.
And now it really happens that you would find some very good ones finished in south of France. Sweet wine always works.
Yeah.
More or less. And indeed, if you burn the cask, the inside, before filling the whiskey, even better. You manage to be closer to a traditional whiskey barrel, rather than getting too much fruit. Because when there's too much, barley is not very expressive.
No.
It's simple cereal. So if you put some Petit Manseng or Muscat or whatever, something like that, you really, it's very...
Yeah. What is some innovation that you can get behind? What some new things that some brands or a brand or someone's doing that you're like, yeah, that's innovative, and
they all have the same innovations. Innovation is when everybody does the same. And I don't. Every once in a while, you've got a small operator trying to speed up maturation with micro oxygenation or whatever. They have, or heating up the cask a lot.
Climate control.
Climate control of that, but heating up the casks themselves with the whiskey inside, stuff like that. And the Americans, what was the name again? They did some funny stuff. Can't remember the name. The Crazy Barrel Company or something. It's not that.
Independent Stave, is it?
The Lost Style Company or something. I'm sorry, I don't remember. But they had some kind of success with some very short maturation. Or eggs. I've seen some experiments with eggs, egg-shaped.
Yeah, they're used in wine as well, I think, aren't they? Yeah, and then Chichibu's got one of them, isn't it? Or maybe more than one. Yeah. What's going on there then? Something in the physics.
But they're so expensive that
never crazy money. Yeah.
What would be crazy is to do it with concrete, but you can't. Otherwise, it's not whiskey.
Concrete aging.
Yeah. They do that with wine.
Yeah.
The trend in wine is less and less wood and more other containers. Sometimes more expensive, even more expensive. But concrete is hot. Sandstone and other or even stainless steel.
Yeah.
So there's a crossing now between the phase where the wine goes back to after the Parker years. Back to less wood, and whereas whiskey is more wood. That's funny.
Yeah, concrete. I've never had concrete aged spirits. I was over in Mexico a lot recently. They use concrete a lot for fermentation vessels.
Yeah,
because it insulates.
Yeah,
so it creates a more stable and consistent fermentation environment.
Yeah,
but steel is quite remarkable. I've done quite a few cocktails aged in steel.
Oh wow!
And it has just this wonderful effect of sort of resolving the ingredients together, so that it stops tasting like 3 ingredients and starts tasting like 1.
Yeah.
There's something magic there. Yeah. Well, there's something, I guess, sort of on a chemical level, but I'm not sure.
In the open? No, you didn't try in the open.
What do you mean?
Outside.
No.
Under the heat of the day, cold of the night, etc.
No, we used to put them in thermos flasks. So if anything, they were insulated from changing temperature. So there wasn't that going on. Right. But I mean, as you know, just after blending whiskey and leaving it in a tank in steel for a while, it changes.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think. I mean, you think steel is just being inert, but something's going on there.
Yeah. Or as I said, sandstone is very classic. So used
in wine.
Eau de vie.
In Eau de vie. Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah, Eau de vie. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Even if they're white, very often they are aged as well. 10 years or something. Mezcals as well.
Mezcal in glass. I mean, they'll put mezcal in glass demijohns for 10, 50, well, sometimes for a year, obviously, but sometimes for 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
And you taste those spirits and you're like, this is a completely different spirit, you know?
Absolutely.
Something to do with the volatility of mezcal means that it really changes in glass.
Yeah.
So on that note, do you think whiskey is changing much in the bottle, unopened? Because you're talking about doing tastings of Brora and Clynelish from the 70s. And, you know, how do we ever really know what that spirit tasted like in 1971 or 72? Because it's evolved in the bottle a little.
Feel very old. Well, no, of course you can't compare exactly, but you can have a bottle that was stored perfectly and a bottle that wasn't, and compare the same whiskey from different sources, and you'll see they are different. For example, I don't know, a bottle from a small shop in Milano, and a bottle that was kept in the cellar in Scotland, right? And the one in Milano in the behind the window. All right, so these bottles are very different. You can see that the label, one has got completely yellow, the other one is pristine. So, and you compare the two whiskies, and they are very different. So means they changed. At least one of them changed. So obviously, yeah, it changes. It changes depending on the conditions. That's one of the biggest myths.
But even in storing it in perfect conditions, like
What is
cool,
perfect?
dark, well, I would guess no sunlight for sure. Cool, less fluctuation in temperature. Probably just dark is better than any light at all, right?
Light was supposed to be the enemy.
Yeah.
Absolutely, especially with old bottles, because the glasses were not as good as they are now. Now, I've tried some stupendous whiskies that were in that famous little shop in Milano that I just mentioned. sitting behind the window next to the coffee machine, with the label being black, having gotten black, couldn't even read exactly what was written, and the whiskey was fantastic. So you never know.
Speaking of stupendous whiskies, what's some stupendous whiskey you've had recently? Anything stand out?
There are many. You know, in my system, which is basically Michael Jackson, so 100-point score.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that as well, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the standard. So every day you've got a new guy, great guy, who wants to change the. All right, but actually, we started using it with my friends, the Malt Maniacs. We were a bunch of whiskey geeks from different countries, and we just wanted to compare our opinions with Michael Jackson's, and that's why we use the same scale. Otherwise, you can't do that.
So what is the scale for anyone that's not familiar?
It's from 0. It's a percentage, actually. We all write points, but actually it's a percentage. And the score says how far are we from the ideal perfect whiskey that would be at 100% perfect. And so 99 is very close and extra. And so you start from 100 point and you go down. And that's why you've got a lot with malt whiskey between let's say 75 and 95, because the malt whiskeys are better than if you go for a very cheap blend exported to Kenya. Nothing against Kenya, of course. Then you go down below 50 for sure, or Morocco.
So the bottom half of the scale is a functional part of the scale. It needs to be there. Absolutely. Because there are whiskies that.
If you drink, I don't know, oil, crude oil, I can tell you'll need the scale between 0 and 10, and it happens.
How do you kind of balance sort of, let's say, trueness to type with subjective enjoyment?
That's a killer question. Objectiveness comes really from the methods. Yeah, actually, you can't fail, because I also use a reference whiskey when I start.
Yeah.
Not always, but often. So I've got 2 or 3 of them. Lafroig, for example. And if I try some peaty whiskies, I first have a tiny sip of Lafroig, which I know very well, obviously. And I know Lafroig, I can't remember the score, 82, 83 points, right? So anything better than this is will get higher. So you can be quite consistent when you do that. Whereas, indeed, if you at a festival, a glass that a friend gives me, and I had no comparison, I'm lost. I couldn't give a score. Of course I could, but it wouldn't mean much because it was not compared to anything. So then, indeed, many people believe it's silly to give a score, and I agree in those conditions. It's silly if you don't have the system. And and the scale is like if you go to a doctor, they usually it's better when it happens between 36 degrees Celsius, and 41. If it's below or above, you're dead, right? and yet it can measure 5 or 10 or degrees, So indeed, that's what many people regret is the fact that indeed the majority is in a rather narrow bracket.
Yeah.
But you can't. Sometimes I feel like I need half points as well, but I never want to play this game. But sometimes two whiskies are so close. One is just a wee bit better. You say, yeah, it would really deserve half a point more, but I don't want to do that.
No, but when you say it's better, one is better than the other. They're both scoring 90, let's say.
Yeah.
What is that? What is the betterness that you're actually identifying there? Is it that you like one of them at 1% more than the other, or is there something about its what it's setting out to achieve and whether it's achieving that?
That's really related to me. My system is for me. I'm not saying anybody else should share the same, because I like natural whiskies, meaning not too much oak impact, not too much wine impact, and more distillate driven, as close as possible to the raw materials, barley, whatever. And so indeed, if I've got two of them, and one of them is in that cluster, it's gonna get higher than the other one that smells of strawberries. Nothing against strawberry. And you can find a lot of strawberry in peaty whiskies. And besides, if you pass by Port and Maltings on Isla, it smells of strawberries.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. What about blind tasting? Do you ever do that as a sort of method for sort of removing the brand element and expectation?
Yeah, but not for the website, because the system doesn't allow that. You cannot have 10 Laphroaigs and not knowing that they are Laphroaigs. So
yeah. And you need an assistant effectively to kind of set all this stuff up.
Yeah, and you have to do it double all the time. Otherwise, double blind, and you have to know strictly nothing. Saying a young whiskey from the Isle of Skye, 10 years old or more, it's not blind, right? So if you really want it to be blind, you need not to know anything, including the color, because the color has a huge impact. So you have to use those black or blue glasses, ISO glasses, which can be a bit boring, and they're very hard to clean up after that, these glasses. But indeed, I did it for awards, for example.
Yes.
I don't do that anymore, but I've done quite a lot, tastings for World Whiskey Awards or other things like that. Yeah.
What about price? Are you agnostic to price when you're nosing and tasting?
I should, but of course, if you a very lavish presentation is a handicap, for example, because where do they need to do that if the whiskey is so good? And so it's got a little impact. So, but it should not. The price should not. And the price is so different depending on the countries anymore. Anyway, so you can't use that as a mean of coming up with a score or anything. No. That's why very cheap whiskies can have very high scores.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But are they worthy of an even higher score because they're great and they're cheap?
Let's say, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think if you're managing to bottle something that's fantastic and it's under £50 a bottle,
Yeah.
then great. I'm going to give you a few extra points because
Yeah.
that offers great value.
Yeah.
If you're gonna notice price, then you've got to weigh that into the formula, I think. Similarly, if a bottle costs £3,000 and it's shit, then you're going to score even lower, I think.
No, but you're right. You're right. It gives you a nudge in 1 hour. It happens around the borders, right? For example, between 89 points and 90 points. That's only 1 point, but it's quite huge. The difference is usually the perception because you're above a limit. And so, for example, is Talis per 10 years old, which I love. Is it worth 89 or 90? Well, it's £39, right? Oh, okay,
90, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. If the price was 500, okay, 89. No, that happens here.
Yeah,
Of course, you've got this small. That should not happen, but it does. Obviously. If you feel your friend with the whiskey, or the whiskey is an enemy that wants your money, which is made to catch you. Yeah. Things happen quite bizarrely sometimes in your head.
Yeah. Do you find yourself attracted to weirdness in whiskey?
More and more. Because they stand out. And sometimes, indeed, you would say, it's not very balanced. It's unbalanced. But I love it. It's so different. It's so unusual, so funny. So, yeah. And the more you taste, the more you need the things from time to time because they lift your spirit. If you try 10 whiskeys that are all the same, good but all the same, and very classic, sometimes can be boring. Yeah, so indeed, yeah. And that you find in many countries now. Not in Scotland yet. But yeah, some Germans, for example, do crazy stuff. In the north as well, the Nordics. That's the main new trend, right? The arrival of, and now some are really very good now. It wasn't quite the case 5 years ago or before, but now you really have some great ones. Yeah, especially the Nordics.
Yeah, I tried a Nordic whiskey yesterday. I forget the name of the distillery. It begins with B. I think it's the most northerly distillery in Norway. And they're doing a winter barley from their own plot of land.
Yeah.
Really small quantity.
Yeah.
It only has like a short 3-month growing window because, of course, it's dark all winter. So it grows super fast. And it's an old bare barley heirloom variety or whatever. Tried that. It's astonishing. So the malt that came through, and there may be a little bit of like psychological, like winter malt. You just told me the story about malt. Now you taste it. Damn, that's malty, But wow, it really was. That's again why you shouldn't assess whiskey at a whiskey show because you're being sold to at the same time,
Especially if you talk to the some very friendly brand ambassadors or whatever.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And they improved a lot. They improved this one. I remember the first one, which not so long ago was good, but a bit bizarre. And indeed, the one I tried at the show was superb.
Yeah.
They must have tweaked one or two things. Yeah.
But yeah, I have this sort of working theory around sort of connoisseurship and how as you grow in knowledge around a specific subject, and obviously we're talking about whiskey, but it could be wine, spirits, watches, whatever, you're finding the sort of boundaries of the category, the sort of working space where the products normally sit within and operate out of. And as that becomes more clearly defined, you actually lose something. You're like, now I kind of understand it and nothing surprises me. And so increasingly, you're then looking for the things that just sit ever so slightly outside the borders. And that not only gives joy and sort of sense of surprise, like, wow, I wasn't expecting it to taste like that, but actually then have to start shifting the borders a little bit and go, oh, I didn't know that flavor was possible.
Absolutely. No, I agree. You really see that with rye these days. Rye is the new thing, right? I mean, it's not a new thing, but the production of rye whiskey, especially in the UK, not only in the UK, is something quite new. And it's quite good. It's really good.
Yeah, it's an interesting cereal for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It brings about flavors that, I mean, a lot of the best, my favorite rye whiskeys have got this sort of cherry note to it, you know, or it's jalapeno chili or whatever, you know, and that's, you're like, wow, there's this sort of humble cereal that somehow is bringing about this bright, floral, juicy kind of flavor.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I think it's one of the things about whiskey that's so endearing is, you know, with grapes and cognac, you're like, yeah, well, I can see how that can make a fruity flavored spirit. It's made from a fucking grape, you know? But when you're taking grains and then all this honey and floral and spice and, I mean, you know, all these whiskeys here with all the manifest, all these different flavors without the use of a cask which just had a load of wine in it or whatever. There's something magic in that. You know, that transformation from something so humble to something so flavorful.
Absolutely. Yeah, magic. It is magic. When you try, you know, maybe you know these James Eady, they did a set of new mix with new distilleries. So they have Daft Mill, they have, well, they don't call it Daft Mill. I think they haven't got the right name. Dornach and a few others. Excuse me. So it's only new make. And they will have this set with a book about the old style distilling. Blah, blah, blah.
Yes, yeah, I've got one of the books they did.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
And so when you try these different samples, so new make, no wood at all. They're incredibly different. Incredibly different. Meaning you can make great spirit without any wood.
Yeah.
The problem is that you can't call it whiskey. But I imagine if you could, you would put this into, sandstone or amphora or whatever, and mature it that way, or even stainless steel or whatever. It would be cool. It would be cool. Like rum. If rum does it, why not whiskey?
Yeah.
Or mezcal or tequila. Yeah.
So we got a little bit sidetracked, but I asked you about exceptional whiskies you've had recently. Ones you've scored highly, I guess, or ones, I guess maybe even just ones that have surprised you. It doesn't have to be a high score, but something where you've gone, whew, well, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, so the crazy ones, I would say it's kind of the same question, actually. It's something that stands out.
Yeah,
and you say,
well, we just established that it is kind of the same question.
There's a distillery in Germany called St. Kilian's. No, I think it's the name of the whiskey. I think the distillery has another name, but whatever.
Yeah.
The whiskey is St. Kilian's, and they make really crazy stuff. They age some in old bunkers from the war. The other ones, it's crazy, or they make bottlings with a label about a hard rock band. Or, it's so almost stupid, but so smart, actually, in the way they manage to, and even the shape of the bottle is like then Morangi had a bottle like this at some point, the shape of a steel in a way. It's quite strange, and that's always funny.
I am familiar with the brand. I don't think I've had anything from them, but I know
you would remember.
Yeah.
Even the shape of the bottle.
Yeah.
Or in Switzerland, you've got one called Sentis. They use old beer casks, and it's quite crazy as well. Very fermentary, sometimes really very dirty, but dirty in a good way. And crazy people as well from the east of Germany.
You mentioned the Nordics as well. So, I mean, do you think some of the most exciting stuff is going on in Europe then, at the moment?
Yeah. You can,
I might say Europe, not Scotland and Ireland, like as in sort of newer European
It's coming in Scotland. Ireland is difficult. I've tried a very good one called Ardara. It's a brand new one. Small distillery, new distillery, making only peaty whiskey. Scotland, I think it's coming. But indeed, you've got Daphne, of course, but Daphne is very classic. It's the opposite of our list. It's absolutely not crazy. It's really square, classic, wonderful.
Do you think Scotland has a bit of a challenge with the sort of rise of New World whiskey, for want of a better term, in that they perhaps have sort of greater freedom for experimentation, and Scotland obviously has its traditions and is perhaps sort of destined to be rooted in those in terms of production and styles?
Especially the use of other woods, for example, which they can't do in Scotland. They have to use oak. And indeed, if you try whiskies from other parts of even Europe, you'll find a lot of different woods. Beech, acacia, chestnut, and all the different oaks as well. Pink oak, I've seen. No, that's Scottish. Who did use this? Oh yeah, Fettercam, pink oak. It's actually it's a normal French oak. The heart of the is pink.
Right. Okay.
It's not a variety.
It sounds like marketing.
You said it.
Yeah, I said it. It's on me. It's my show. I can say whatever I want. So speaking of other woods, sorry, what have you tasted out of other wood that you think, wow, that's a contender against oak? Any types of wood that you particularly enjoy?
Since I prefer distillate driven whiskies, it's a question that's
like wood that's not doing too much.
In a way, I know it does. I had a chat a few years back with a guy from a company that I won't mention that's located in Elgin, right? And they were saying 70% of the flavor of whiskey comes from the wood. And I said, and the distillate, that's also 70.
We're scoring out of 140%. Yeah.
In that case.
I always think it's a funny one when people say, 70%, 80%, 85%. And I think often it's thrown out there as a sort of kind of basic bitch way of communicating to people about the importance of a barrel in maturation. But to put a number on it, I mean, I guess, depending on how old the whiskey is, the number does mean more. But there's so much more than just the flavour of the barrel. There is these sort of oxidation effects. There's development of flavour that's already in the new mate into new flavour. And so there's just no way of ascribing a number to it. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. No. Old, exactly. The flavouring part, which happens at the beginning, usually in classic maturation, flavouring, as you said, oxidation, that is more towards the end. I mean, oxidation, interplay with the environment, etc. And subtractive and additive. So filtering, unwanted flavors, adding flavors, and then maturation. But if you cut the maturation, you only get the new flavors.
The other bit.
And indeed. And that's not something that... So to answer your question about the woods, I couldn't say. Seriously, I couldn't say if there's one. I've tasted some good ones in Mizunara, which was all the rage a few years back, and now everybody has it. But indeed, I think it works. I think it's quite expensive.
Yeah, I hear that as well. I was talking to Jota Tanaka from Fuji, and we talked about Mizunara, which I don't think they've released anything out of Mizunara yet. He was saying, in his opinion, it only really works if it's full term and it's long term, like 15, 20 years, and that finishing in it it's just, so you can put Mizunara on the bottle kind of thing. It doesn't really have much of an impact.
Yeah.
That was his opinion.
No, but indeed, many, I mean, they shoot and then they draw the target, which is always very much easier to do.
Love that.
They shoot and then they're tracking around it. Yeah, so they do something and then they find the explanation and they find the selling point.
Brilliant. I'm going to use that one. I love that analogy. Yeah.
So you could you could find an explanation for anything.
Yeah.
A good reason.
Yeah. I think you've been pretty outspoken about speculators, bottle flippers, all of that kind of stuff.
Flippers. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how much damage do you think that has done with the sort of where we are now with the whiskey market and high price tags, all that sort of thing?
The problem is that it made that many whiskies became only for speculators indeed, because they were quick and fast and organized. You could see them, for example, at the Isla Festival, Fish Isle. They were there lining up, standing up very early in the morning and buying all they could and putting them on eBay while on the ferry, you know. That was nasty. That was nasty because people going there as just pilgrims, you know, didn't have any chance to get them, and then the distillery started to raise the prices, and that priced people out. So you couldn't at the very beginning. You would have, for example, might add these balls as a souvenir, kind of a reward for having done the trip and extra. And then it became pure speculation, and indeed. But I think that's since the prices have dropped at auction. I think some might have been burnt, you know, because
yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Going back to the website, Whiskey Fund, you're sort of defiantly old school with it in terms of the design.
Yeah.
Is that intentional? Is it sort of nostalgia, or is it sort of laziness?
Probably a bit of everything. No,
it looks like a geosite from circa 1995.
Yeah. Someone said a rave flyer from the 1980s. No, every time I asked some friends or anybody, should I change? They no, don't touch it. So people seem to like it. I don't know why. I have to say that changing it, I would need quite a lot of work. But I could do it now with AI. It would be a little faster. But I would have problems with all the pictures. Because I had the stupid idea. I come from the press, right? In my early works, working with magazines and stuff, a long time ago. And so I had the idea that the yellow background was, especially in America, for example, something precious. You know, when it was yellow paper was always better than white.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, let's do it yellow. It was not because all the other ones were white, but because at the time you had known. So that was the reason. And I had the stupid idea of putting small pictures of the balls.
Yes.
But not straight, you know. So you have the background that's the yellow background is behind all the pictures as well.
I get you.
So it's not
if you pulled that off, you'd have the yellow.
It's not PNG on you know what I mean?
PNGs probably didn't exist when you started.
No. And so I couldn't rework the pictures.
Yeah.
That's impossible. Well, maybe I could, but... And then I would have to hire an army of gentlemen in India or somewhere, or Pakistan to do it or something. And since, as you said, there's more than 20,000 different ones, that's
it'll be a slow process.
I can't do it by hand. Yeah. So I did this kind of low tech websites, but that's actually because I couldn't change.
No, but
it's not a choice. It's not very efficient. SEO is bad, you know. But it's still enough for me.
I think people would hate it if you changed it.
Well, every time I tried even recently. I tried a few weeks ago, months ago. I tried to because everything is jumbled. I mean, a tasting note is just text, right? There's no of course, I read color palette, but it's all, I could do paragraphs. It would be much easier to be read. And so I tried to do that. So I did it for a few tastings, and I got insults. People saying, "Why do that? You should do ASCII. We don't even need the pictures." all right. And so I stopped. So I went back to. I tried white background as well.
Not the same.
Everybody does white.
It's true. It does make it stand out. How did you get into this in the first place? You mentioned you're in publishing, and that this isn't even your job. So.
I was having a personal newsletter. So I printed a newsletter that I was sending to my friends, paper, before the web, and stories, jokes, and tastings, wine, but also I think a few whiskeys, not many. And so I was already doing some kind of blogging on paper. I was just using copying that and mailing it to my friends a few times a year. And then, of course, when the web arrived, there was this guy in Holland, Johannes van den Heuvel, who started Malt Madness, which was really the first website, serious website about whiskey. That was, I think, 95, right? Very early days. And he already was blogging in a way. He was telling stories. He had a diary, and he was writing about what he was tasting, but also small stories, how he bought some shelves at IKEA to store the whiskey or whatever. I love this part. So he was really the king of blogging about the daily little things.
Before it was even called blogging.
No, absolutely. But he was calling it the liquid log. And it's so sad that he stopped because he was really good. And then he started the Malt Maniacs. That's a little later, 97. And at some point with him, we decided to have to do a 3-part website. At that time, it was the kind of ideas we were having. So an encyclopedia, that was his website, Malt Madness, the story of distillery, this and that. Then you had a magazine, which was all the articles written by the Malt Maniacs. Why is there lavender in Beaumont in the 80s? How do you do this kind of distillation and whatever? And then a daily, and daily was Whiskey Fun. So daily was daily tasting notes. And that's how it started. So with the same kind of layout.
And so what year was Whiskey Fun actually started?
2002.
Okay.
At the very, very beginning, it was a page only about Brora. But very quickly it evolved. And 2002, yeah.
And your love of whiskey, is that something that developed slowly, or have you always been a whiskey drinker?
Oh, I think it's a French thing. It's a French thing. The French drink a lot of whiskey. Not only whiskey, but... because it was a drink of the soldiers at the end of the Second World War. So anything... so they were drinking whiskey, And the French... didn't make any difference between an American, New Zealander, Australian, Scottish, whatever. It's all the same, speaking this funny language that nobody understood at that time, and drinking whiskey, and that's how whiskey invaded, really, and then it became the drink of the jazz players. There's always been a lot of relation with jazz, American jazz, and rock and roll, of course, and that's built the myth around whiskey, and so I got caught. Also because my father used to work for American companies, so he used to travel a lot, bringing bottles at home, bottles that you couldn't find in France at that time. There were no single malts. I mean, there were 2, actually. When I became an adult, you had only Glenfiddich and Cardo. These 2. And, wow, yeah. So I started with the whiskey when the whiskey started, in a way.
As in when it became available.
But the first trip to abroad with a car was to Scotland at that time. So, yeah.
And when was that? When did you start getting serious?
I'm afraid it was in 78 or 9.
Sorry, I shouldn't say you're getting serious about it, because it's fun, of course. But so 79, you were doing distillery trips.
Yeah. No. Not exactly. Yeah, but 2 distilleries were open: Glenlivet and Glenfiddich.
And you could actually go and visit them.
Yeah. But you had, tour guides with the kilts and backpacks and stuff. That was the
That was the vibe.
mood at that time.
Yeah.
Glenfiddich, and Glenlivet. That there were only those 2. And they were drinking it with ginger ale, or nobody was drinking it pure. Drinking whiskey pure is something pretty new.
Yeah.
And even the people you were meeting at the time, they were having the bottles in the fridge, drinking it.
How was it being consumed in France at the time?
Well, the malts pure. That's the malts were. I mean, these 2, Glenfiddich and Cardo, you would start to find them in bars, what we used to call American bars, which is bizarre, but anyway. So cozy kind of bar. Sometimes with girls, and that's where they were having them. And when you were asking for a whiskey, the barman would say, "Hey, have you seen what I've got over there on the shelf? A white label, and the other one with the deer." And when I tried this, it's malt whiskey. What? Malt whiskey is part. And then they would pour them in small sniffers. Cognac glasses, and it was meant to be pure and expensive, and it was already luxury.
Was it?
That's what they were saying.
Yeah. And then blends were being consumed in what? Highballs with ginger?
Highballs, yeah, sparkling water, or not ginger, Coca-Cola.
Do they still drink it with Coca-Cola in France? Is it still consumed that way?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, we drink bourbon with Coke, of course, here, but not Scotch.
Yeah, but the French don't make any difference between the countries. So it's bourbon and Scotch for probably 90% of the French. It's the same thing, right?
Is bourbon really popular in France as well?
Yeah, since they don't make any difference. And there are a lot of own brands in the supermarkets and bourbon. Yeah.
Okay. Looking ahead, what gives you hope in the whiskey category? What are you excited about?
For the category as a whole.
Well, you can pick Scotch or.
No, I just hope the sales won't dwindle too much. Globally, it's quite frightening to see that. According to some articles I've read, that the youngsters they prefer drugs, right, than alcohol, all right, because alcohol makes you fat, and drugs makes you thin. It's crazy, absolutely crazy and dangerous. And drugs is really like this in France.
Yeah.
And so alcohol, I have to say, all the messages that the lobbies against alcohol have been quite efficient. A message. Advertising is repetition. So if you repeat, it's starting to enter the heads. So I'm not saying people should drink, not at all, but it's concerning for the category. I think it's concerning. Wine is the same.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the costs of drinking as well, I think, is another problem. Young people can't afford to drink, or they can't afford to drink out. It's just become price prohibitive. And I say that as a bar owner, knowing that, I control what we sell stuff for, but the cost of doing business as a bar owner, and we're seeing it with all the bars that are closing because people aren't going out, is a serious challenge. We found ourselves in this sort of vicious cycle or back and forward, where rent's gone up, staffing's gone up, product's gone up, and then in addition to that, like you say, there's drugs. There's also, there's this sort of phenomenon of drunkenness as well, where everyone's got a smartphone with a camera on it. You don't want to be videoed because, unlike when you or I were young, you could make a fool of yourself, and the next day people would talk about it, but the day after that, there's no evidence. Whereas now, that evidence is posted online forever and can have serious repercussions. I mean, like, that's no joke, you know. If you're stumbling out of a building with your pants down by your ankles, you might lose your job, you know, or you might not be able to get another job. No. So there's a problem with that as well, I think. I did see something the other day that was suggested that actually Gen Z as Gen Z get older, they are starting to drink more, which I think probably backs up the point I just made about price. Once they're earning a little bit more money, they can actually afford to do it. But I don't know, that was just one article, and who knows how sturdy the data was on it.
Unless delivery by, people know order their coffee. A coffee and a croissant. Crazy.
Yeah.
I suppose that will exist if it doesn't already with a dram.
Yeah, well, it doesn't exist quite like that. I mean, I had the Whiskey Me, the pouches company. That was mine.
Oh, yeah.
You know the pouches. It was monthly delivery subscription. Yeah, and the point of that was we sold it now. The point of that was sampling, basically. Try before you buy. So we'd stock the full bottles, which you could buy over the internet, and then you pay £8 a month, and we'd just send you 50 ml or 60 ml. And the idea also was we weren't going to do the sort of whiskey you could buy in a supermarket. It's a price point higher, but also broader range of styles as well. Some weird stuff. Even some stuff that we're like, it's not for us, but maybe they'll like it, kind of thing, just to give people the shape of the category, And it was pretty good. It's pretty effective. But it's not quite what you're saying, where it's like tapping my phone and it turns up 10 minutes later, which you can definitely do for a full bottle, maybe not a dram.
But they do it with coffee.
Yeah. They do it. I mean, I've got friends who don't really cook. They just sort of like order in, and it's like it's convenient.
Yeah, but that for food, I understand. But I've got some friends who order the coffee for they wake up, they order a coffee, and somebody is ringing. He's a coffee, sir. Seriously. Not yet with drones, but it's going to happen with drones.
I think it's more of a hassle answering the door than it is making a cup of coffee, isn't it?
Of course. Of course.
So these are the concerns. What gives you hope? What is, I guess I'll answer my own question first. I think one thing, which we've touched on already, is this huge diversity that's there in whiskey now. And accessibility as well. And we've, the fact that the category is opened up to a broader audience. Mm-hmm. It's not just older gentlemen sat on Chesterfields with a pipe. Not sure it ever was exactly that, but that's the sort of picture we like to paint about the old whiskey category.
Of course it does.
Yeah. And the range of products available as well, and new emerging categories, not markets, but producing countries, and what they bring to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the way is culture and education. I deeply regret that, for example, Diageo, who did some superb things with their classic malts, but that's 30 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. But they educated so many people. A picture of the still, they saw how a real whiskey still was looking like, the weather, the people, the mashman, the body, the cows, and the extra. And it was really very educational. And people started into malt whiskey with this, were starting already with kind of culture. And culture builds the bridges and the values of the product. So your glass of whatever, like a Berliner or whatever, had another value. a richer value than if you just have the whiskey and nothing, or just branding around it. And it's my work, advertising, right? But excessive branding kills, that's for sure. So whereas education does not, on the contrary. And even luxury companies like Louis Vuitton, etc., they do that. They try to do that, opening their atelier where they make the stuff, and you can visit and see and the more often they can. And that's, I suppose, it's really the way. So I suppose that that's the future. And you see the young distilleries we were mentioning in the Nordics or others, they like to speak about the whiskies with much detail, the way they make it. But they have things to tell, because it's true. Sometimes it's not true. For big brands, it's not true. You can't speak about the barley, the fields, the whatever. It's all bought. But yeah, it's fascinating to hear these guys, or Irish, or many countries.
Yeah.
And that's the future.
Yeah, I agree. I think education is so important, and especially when it's done well. I think you have to encourage people to learn and appreciate, but not confuse them, and that's the sort of fine line, And obviously, and a lot of that groundwork's been done, of course, like you say, with classic malts and with Diageo, but there's still so many people out there who think single malt means single barrel, for example. They don't know it's made from malted barley.
Absolutely.
And so there's still so much work that needs to be done there, just at the basic level, to get people into the category.
Or even then, that Scotch means Scotland,
Yeah. All right, just a few little quick ones to finish up. If you could design a whiskey without constraints, what would that look like?
Design a whiskey.
Design.
I mean, the product.
Production, yeah. It's not the brand, but just the way the product is made. So whether it's stills, fermentation, maturation, how would that?
I would gather friends around a lot of bowls. We would try them and find the best of the lot, and then make the same.
That's a good answer. Do you have a favorite?
It's not a continuum. And there was some point in history where whiskey was sublime. Not all the whiskey, though. So you had to find the way they were making it, and try to do it again. But then again, there are many things you can't do. You can't peat like they used to do. Now, when you peat, you have to burn a lot of sulfur. At that time, they did not, or very little. And then the thing was dangerous, right? So there are things you couldn't make anymore. But still, trying to mimic the it's like in watch, again, in watches, everybody's trying to make Patek Philippe, right? Or in cars, everybody's trying to make Porsche, whatever. Not try to invent something from scratch, because I think that, why not? But that we would need 50 years, to
Sure.
perfection.
Yeah. So it's sort of mimicking the best.
Mimicking the best. Yeah. Since in any case the partition is already written by the SWA. You can't do much. You have to use barley. You have to
Sure.
You can't even make. You have to use pot stills. Otherwise, you end up with grain whiskey. So you can't use columns. I'm fine with that, of course, but you have to use oak. You have to mature in Scotland at least 3 years, etc. So it's quite narrow.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite whiskey myth or tale that gets told a lot and is absolutely nonsense?
We all remember, I think, the bump was it in Glendalen, the bump in the still. That I don't know if it's true, but it's long been a story that they had a still with a bump from an accident. Something fell, and when they had to replace the still, they replaced it with a brand new still, but they put the same bump because they were afraid they would lose the style.
Love it. Finally, you've finished a long day of work. you close your laptop or whatever, get home, you pour yourself a whiskey just to enjoy. What are you reaching for?
That's not very often, I have to say. Hey, I would probably take a glass of wine, right? But I just finished a bottle of that I always adored. It was Saint Magdalene, 19 years old, rare malts. Right. And this is a bottle I've done, I suppose, with friends. We might have bought half of the stock. No, I'm joking. Of course not. But many people love that. It's not a well-known bottle, and but it's so superb. And now it's getting good, meaning after, I suppose, almost 30 years in glass, it's really become, it was already very complex, but it's very high degrees, So at the beginning, it was a bit difficult. You had to keep it in the glass for long, adding water and blah, blah, blah. And now it's starting to explode from glass aging. So this probably. But on the other hand, just on the same matter, Angus, Angus, my friend Angus, who writes a bit as well in Whiskey Fun. He wrote an article. He tries a lot of old whiskies. He used to work with auction, actually. And he's saying, and I agree with what he says. He says now the legendary old bottles that we used to love, the old Macallans and whatever, many of them, they have reached their peak now. They start to go
That's declining.
Yeah, and that's sad. So all the bottles from the 60s, 70s.
Interesting.
The best, yeah.
Yeah.
So the 410 years old, for example, which is so superb in the 60s, and so the price is raised, and Lagavulin 12 as well, etc.
Was the reaching the peak thing a known phenomenon? Was it expected that this was going to happen, or was it expected that it was going to keep getting better?
It couldn't be expected, since the industry kept saying that whiskey doesn't change in the world. Yeah. So it cannot be proved, and so it cannot. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And obviously, it has to happen. If it changes, there's an end to anything.
So
after all, whiskey is alive. It's
gotta be. Yeah. Cool. Serge Valentin, thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thanks to you, Tristan.